Did anything like that happen for you today at school? Any bullies?
No, Mom.
This isn't about embarrassing you. This is about what's right and wrong.
And isn't it wrong to embarrass your only son the first week of school?
Don't get cute with me. You didn't see those kids.
And the boy's right, Shaw. You should leave it alone.
Is that an order, Major?
After Shreveport, I think the last thing that you need to get is involved.
Can you guys stop fighting?
We're not fighting.
We're talking. That's just how we talk.
I would say that they are not running, but headed towards something. Just on a technical aspect of it, moving to town because of a job that Leroy was asked to partake in, and I think that he's moving forward, trying to find a foundation for his family. I think being in the military, you can assume that this family's moved quite a bit, and I guess he's hoping to please his family, his wife and kid, by hoping that this is going to be the lasting location for them to build a family.
Yeah, I mean, Will comes in. He's the new kid, similar to Ben in the first movie. He's just trying to figure it out, find friends. He gets bullied towards the beginning. Then he finds the losers, and they click up and end up having to defeat a demonic entity named Pennywise. So.
Yeah, just like what Blake said. I mean, Rich is this outcast, loving kid. He just wants to make everyone feel welcome. And once, like, he gets bullied at school just because he doesn't know how to really speak English. But once he meets Will in the hallway and all the losers, he definitely feels a lot more welcome than what he was before.
I think Charlotte notices it much sooner, and I think that's just because Leroy's just so laser focused, and possibly to a fault, that he's really not seeing those microaggressions and those little moments around town the same way that Charlotte would. Because as you mentioned earlier, as I'm spending so much time on the base and on mission, she's actually experiencing the town in a more organic way, right?
Yeah.
Going to the store and going to the butcher shop and seeing the kids fighting in the street and the people throwing eggs at the sign, and she's just seeing it from a much more, in the, I guess, in the trenches kind of way. Whereas I'm just like, hey baby, going to work, I'll see you, and then she's forced to have to live with it.
But isn't that's like women in the archetypical sense, women make the small things big, men make the big things small. So we're natural noticers, and then men are kind of like, I just have to do what I have to do, which is kind of what their conflict is. That's like their perpetual conflict for years and years and years. Is like, don't you see, I feel it. And he's like, oh my gosh, feelings aren't facts, girl. And it's like this kind of...
They're not.
But feelings are feelings, and feelings sometimes women know. We just know. We don't know why we know, but we do.
I honestly feel like Ronnie does feel like feels guilty of her mom's death, and also the things that she's been through with her mother's death, and the fear of losing another parent, because her father is the only parent that she's known. And now having to live with her grandmother during the financial issues, I think it was very hard for Ronnie to know that she doesn't have her mother, especially going through a tough time in 1962 during this era with the racial tension and everything that's happening, especially with the fear of Pennywise arising. So all these things are just contributing to this, and I think she just feels guilty that her mom is not here because of her, because this is the time where she needs her most.
We feel like part of the themes that the original book and the films engage with are generational trauma, the way trauma is passed down from father to son, from one generation to the next. And so it felt organic to sort of understand, okay, where's the Bowers family evil coming from? What are the challenges? What are the traumas that have shaped the Bowers we meet in chapter 1 and chapter 2? And that's where the chief of police comes in. And so we wanted to use that from the beginning, and it felt like a very natural expression to have that character sort of be one of the chief antagonists of our season, given that his son will one day be one of the chief antagonists in obviously the book and the films.
Unfortunately, I've had my run-in with the police in my life, and that was an extremely traumatic experience from when I was a child till now, unfortunately. And so I was able to draw on experiences that I had and also look at, I'm a black man in this country, right? And so, or at least I'm perceived as a black man in this country, right? And so what does that look like, and what does that feel like? And living with that, and then making sure I understand the world of 1962 and the fact that he's helpless. He doesn't have people that have access to cameras for social media that can report what's going on to everybody else to let them know the atrocities, right? Like if he goes to jail, or if someone that looks white or somebody that is white says that he did it, he did it. And what can you really say? And so having to really live with a state of helplessness that I think we all feel and we all experience, but we really don't talk about too much.
Actually, we had a conversation about that about earlier on in production, because I was concerned that in a show that's all about fear, playing a character who has zero fear, there's a danger of making him really boring. But Andy reassured me that it's not that he's without fear, it's just he has a higher threshold for the feeling of fear. And I think the more practical things about his life are what would be considered things that he's actually afraid of, meaning any situation that puts him in a place where he can't provide for his family, or his wife and his son are in immediate danger. I think that is likely what he is the most afraid of.
Lily faces throughout the series is kind of that balance between people thinking that she's crazy and that herself actually believing that she's crazy. But I think in the grocery store, I honestly think that she's just trying to convince herself that this isn't happening, and she's trying to ground herself, because she's hearing all these voices, and then she sees the kids printed on the cereal boxes, and then she goes into a corner where she's trapped and there's pickles all over her. So, I mean, that scene was super intense and crazy to film, but I honestly think that throughout it, she's trying to ground herself and kind of keep calm, and then she realizes that she's not safe, and then she goes through this awful thing with her dad, or Pennywise taking the form of her dad and attacking her. And then I think she's terrified afterwards when she sees the customers surrounding her. But I also think she's kind of humiliated, because she kind of has this feeling that she will go back to Juniper Hill, and this is kind of just verifying people's belief that she is crazy. So I think she's feeling a lot, but I think she's just, obviously it was a very scary thing. So I think she's shocked and she's scared, and she's honestly just, she's just sad.
We try to approach all the scares in a character-oriented way. And so in the case of Lily Bainbridge, we're talking about a young character who lost her father, who has tremendous trauma about that. As she shares with Maddie Clements in the first episode, she feels like she might be responsible for the accident that killed him. And so that suggests that the ultimate fear for her is going to be an encounter that suggests she was right, that she was responsible. And so you start building from there. We also have a character in her who's, being convinced by those around her, including her mom, including her would-be friends at school, that she's going crazy. They call her Loony Lily Bainbridge. She was institutionalized. And so you're sort of taking all those character-oriented elements and building the ultimate horror set piece specific to her character and her fears. And the product of that was the pickle jail sequence that you see in 102. When you're writing this thing, you're almost playing Mike Hanlon. You're putting on your sort of Mike Hanlon, obviously one of the characters from the original It, one of the losers. Mike spends the intervening years between the first film and the second film, burying himself in the attic of the Derry Library, sort of poring over the history of Derry. And one of the little nuggets that's unveiled in one of those Mike Hanlon interludes is that Dick Hallorann was in Derry, that Dick Hallorann was there when the Black Spot fire happened in a previous It cycle. And so that was the genesis of Dick Hallorann's inclusion. But then the question was, well, what is this version of Dick we're meeting in this moment in his life? This is not a Dick Hallorann who has yet had his encounter with Danny Torrance in The Shining. This is not a Dick Hallorann who's arrived at the destination we find him at in Doctor Sleep. And so it really gave us an opportunity to, in many ways, tell, alongside the larger story we're telling, a Dick Hallorann origin story. And you're gonna see him starting to realize what his abilities are, realizing what it's gonna take to control his powers. That's all part of the journey he goes on. But it's a really exciting approach to Dick, because in The Shining, Dick Hallorann's story and arc and character are really all in service of Danny Torrance's narrative. This is a different approach. Dick is in service to no one but himself in this journey. So I'm excited for fans of Dick Hallorann and the larger Stephen King universe to see where that journey takes him.